currently in the standings for the Players' Championship, just sitting on the bubble to get one of those spots. But 9-2, it's a great way to pick up some points this weekend. Won the Atlanta Open in the last month. That really was what propelled him into the Players' Championship race, looking for a repeat visit after last year's top 8 finish.
Yeah, Ross has not done a whole lot of work on the IQ circuit. He's certainly done some, but the Open Series resume at this point really built up.
All right, for Tom, it's a turn 1 Warden of the First Tree and a turn 2 Snapping Gnarlid. This is a very aggressive start for him as we pass the turn to Wade, see if he can keep pace with creatures here.
Ross told me yesterday that the Snapping Gnarlid has not been very good for him, but his hand looks quite land heavy, so this could be one of those draws.
Yeah, and especially what I like about it, and we've saw this yesterday, he does have a copy of Wingmate Rock in his hand. That card has been just excellent in these creature mirrors.
In the white creature matchups, it seems like the best thing going.
Well, Snapping Gnarlid may not have been that good yesterday, but it was good enough to take care of a Silk Wrap from Wade. That was his turn 2 play, and he respected the 2/2 enough that he left a Warden of the First Tree on the board just to take care of it. So now we go back to Tom. Does he have a follow-up play, or is Warden becoming a 3/3? That's what it's going to look like here.
Looks like Ross has picked up a Den Protector this turn, so debating between playing a Morph or pumping Warden the First Tree. Nothing good to get out of the graveyard just yet. Only Windswept Heath, and his hand's quite land heavy. But there is something to be said for mana efficiency.
Yeah, his hand is 3 more lands, Den Protector and Wingmate Rock. Land heavy, he does need 5 lands to get up to the bird. You see here, he's going to go, it looks like, go ahead and fetch straight away for a Canopy Vista. And the swing just for 1, and then the face-down Den Protector. Going to take the mana-efficient route here.
I like this route for 2 reasons. One is mana efficiency, and the other is I think Ross just wants to have as many eligible attackers in play to make sure that he can raid the Wingmate Rock.
All right, so Wojcak down to 17, and now he'll play a Den Protector of his own. Now, on Wojak's spot, he had 3 lands, but played the Den Protector face up here.
I think that's because he wants to be able to use the Wooded Foothills to go get a Smoldering Marsh to get black mana. And he can't get the Smoldering Marsh into play on tap right now because he only has 1 basic land in play.
And that will threaten a trade of Den Protector for Tom Ross's Morph. However, the 2/1 from Wade won't be able to block Warden of the First Tree. Tom said, looks like his draw may have been a 6th land.
If Ross wants to, he can unmorph the Den Protector, get back the land, play the land, use the remaining 2 mana to pump Warden the First Tree, and then there's no good blocks with the Den Protector. Then he's set up next turn to raid the Wingmate Rock with 2 creatures in play and Wojak on the face of it having no blockers.
Yeah, it looks like the line he may just take here. You see, flipping up Den Protector, that'll get back the fetch land. He'll go ahead and get another Canopy Vista. Maybe we'll see that pump combat here. We'll go for the attack, see if Wade wants to block, and then the pump happens. 6 damage in, Wojak down to 11.
And this is where Ross got paid off for being mana efficient on the previous turn, even though the dividends weren't totally clear. He ended up using 3 mana that turn and 4 mana this turn. He wouldn't have had the option of doing it in reverse had he pumped the Warden on the previous turn rather than play the Den Protector face down.
And there's exactly what you talked about. Smoldering Marsh is the get for Wojak. Does have to come into play tapped. So we go back to Wade. He's at 10, having fetched there. It's a low life total. Now, of course, his deck does play cards like Siege Rhino that can undo the damage.
And this would be a great spot. It would force Ross, if he wanted to raid the Wingmate Rock, to run one of his creatures into the Siege Rhino. Really, any of the big plays right now are powerful for Wojak. Even Anafenza on defense raises the cost. Now, Wingmate Rock is so good that if Tom gets to raid it, it still might be too much for Wojak to overcome. But any of Wojak's large bodies right now does some real work defending himself.
All right, well, Den Protector will attack on Wojak's side. Tom down to 15. We'll see what the follow-up is here. I don't know that he has the Rhino. I know he has at least a copy of Gideon, ally of Zendikar, in hand. Looks like the follow-up will be Anafenza, and he'll have an uncracked fetch land, as he'll pass back the turn to Tom Ross.
And I think Wojak needs to play Anafenza this turn instead of Gideon, because Gideon just doesn't block very effectively. Can't block the Den Protector, and Warden is a 3/3, so got to be Anafenza.
All right, both creatures are going to crash in. Tom may just be offering one of them up. Anafenza will block Den Protector. Wojak will take 3 off Warden of the First Tree. Now, I'm surprised to see him leave Warden of the First Tree on the board, as opposed to leaving Den Protector on the board.
And it's possible that Wojcak here is worried about the possibility of the Den Protector growing larger, something like a Gideon Emblem or some other pump spell.
And then he
Dromoka's
couldn't
command
block it.
and then just can't block. So I don't think he's necessarily worried about Warden getting too large. He does have an Abzan Charm in hand, so he can answer it down the line. And I think he's just concerned about Den Protector randomly getting larger and working his way around some blocks.
All right, well, Warden gets in, puts Wojcak down to 7, and here comes a pair of birds. It's Wingmate Rock and the 3/4. We've seen this card just be so excellent in white mirrors. We pass back to Wade. He does have Abzan Charm and Dromoka's command, so he might be able to take care of the air assault. But at 7 life, he's going to have to do so very quickly.
Well, if he can answer both the tokens here, he's firmly ahead on the table.
We will see. Double fetch puts Wojcak down to 5. See lands here. If the first one gets a basic, the second one can get a dual. We see Plains and Canopy Vista going to do just that. So everything untapped, and this looks like that pair of kill spells on Wojak's side. Here's Abzan Charm to take care of the Wingmate Rock proper, and Dromoka's command will have Anafenza fight down the bird. We'll see where the token goes, if it was Anafenza or Den Protector. Looks like it was Anafenza. So the creatures swing in, counter on Den Protector, and this is a swing for 8 from Wojak. That'll deal damage. Tom Ross is now on the ropes as well. Life total's very low each side.
Well, now the Warden is a concern, though. Ross can gain some life this turn, although if he goes to 9, Wojak still has him covered on the way back.
Yeah, right now he has 8 power, but an attack would put another counter on Den Protector, and that would be 9. So even if Warden has lifelink, it's still lethal. And Tom may not have options, though, because if Den Protector becomes a 4/3, that creature is very hard to block.
Yep.
Land 6 from Tom. Follow-up play is a Death Mist Raptor. Tom will pass. Wojak at 2. This one's close. Tom at 6.
Ross here beat by, I believe, any removal spell gets the job done. Siege Rhino gets the job done. A lot of draws for a kill.
Yeah, Wojak does have a Gideon in hand now as well. Gideon, a second Anafenza, and another Warden of the First Tree appear to be Wojak's cards.
And you can see that play from Wojak several turns ago paying some dividends, getting rid of the Den Protector instead of the Warden. If Den Protector was still in play, this would be a lot more complicated for Wojak because, for example, playing Gideon and making a token, that would be off the table as a way of handling Den Protector, but he can use that to block the Warden for 1 turn.
Yeah, really good evaluation from him. Just, on the surface, Warden looks like a scarier attacker than Den Protector, but that's just not how this works out. So here's the attack from Wojak. He'll swing the team. Anafenza will trade with Death Mist Raptor. Den Protector becomes a 4/3. That hits Tom, and now it's 2 life apiece. And it looks like Wade's follow-up will be a Warden, a Gideon, an Ally, and he's hoping that that's enough to block and win the game here. At 2 life points apiece, it looks like Wade has lethal on the next turn.
Yeah, I believe that Wojak can block out of this turn, and then Den Protector can't be blocked on the way back, and that should do it.
Yeah, it's 4 damage, and on a glance, it looks like Tom could give his Warden lifelink and go to 5, but then Wojak can make an emblem, and Den Protector will still be lethal. Tom's hand is 2 lands and a Warden. I think with the right plays here, Wade may have him. Very close here. Really heads up on Wade to continue to be aggressive even in the face of so much damage coming from Tom's side.
Yep. Well, he knew that, Ross has a lot of dangerous draws, and on top of that, Ross just doesn't have a whole lot of removal for Wojak's creatures, so he has a lot of ways to command the damage raise.
Well, here's the way from Wojak. He will cash in the Gideon for an emblem. Den Protector a 5/4. Knight at 3/3, Warden a 2/2. These are all lethal attackers. They'll swing. Tom 2 blockers to 3 attackers. On top of that, he can't block the Den Protector.
And Wojak here with Abzan Charm as his leftover here. So if Ross goes for block with my Warden that's at level 1, try to give it lifelink, Wojcak can simply exile it, so he's not worried about that sequence. He's happy for Ross to commit 4 of his available mana that way.
Yeah, I mean, and Ross would need more than that because even 3 lifelink isn't enough to save him through this attack.
Yep.
Well, here's the swing. Tom Ross is in the tank, though. Maybe he has a trick that we're missing.
I believe Ross's hand is just 2 lands. I don't even... I think Ross is just trying to see if there's a mistake he can even force Wojcak to make. And there's nothing. There's nothing he can do.
If Wojcak just passes the turn and does nothing, it's still lethal. So game 1, over to Wade Wojcak. Abzan aggro goes up on Bant Megamorph.
And Wojcak able to break serve there on the draw against a pretty aggressive draw from Tom, with Wojcak not really coming out of the gates. I mean, the first play was a turn 3 face-up Den Protector, but he has higher quality removal, he has larger threats, and he was able to manage the damage race very effectively.
Yeah, no, the removal spells really did seem to be the difference. I mean, on the surface, Tom Ross has early creatures followed by Wingmate Rock. That's the recipe he wants for the matchup.
Yeah, Ross can't... I mean, his draw was a little land heavy by the end of it, but certainly the first 5 of the turns of the game looked very strong for him with Wojcak floundering. But that turn where Wojcak was able to remove the Wingmate Rock and the token that came along with it, hit for a bunch of damage. That was the big swing of the game, and Ross was about a spell short of being able to punch through the last points of damage.
All right, we'll go over to the sideboards. We'll look first at Tom Ross. He's down a game, and some of the cards he has available to him, Surge of Righteousness was good against gold creatures, but he's got a lot of interesting ones in here. An extra land, cards like Lantern Scout. Walk me through his sideboard plan.
Well, he's got 2 copies of Master Unseen and 3 copies of Disdainful Stroke if he wants to go a little bit bigger and more controlling here, though that's risky because the cards that did the heavy lifting for Wojcak in game 1 were 2 and 3 mana spells. So I think Disdainful Stroke will come in as a concession to Siege Rhino, to Wingmate Rock, to Gideon, but Wojak's lower parts of the curve are still quite productive. The 1 copy of Hidden Dragon Slayer is very good in this matchup. A lot of 4 power creatures in Wojak's deck.
Yeah, now, the card I'm interested in here, this is the rare ally from Battlefield Zendikar. He has a copy of Lantern Scout in his sideboard.
I would assume Lantern Scout is more for Atarka Red style matchups. This matchup is much more about what's going on the board rather than each player's life total. Lantern Scout will have spots of being great if Wojcak is just racing, but since he's playing against so much removal, I think Lantern Scout's not well suited for this.
All right, well, on Wade's side, he gets to go to the sideboard as well, maybe try to get that game 2. It starts with 2 self-inflicted wounds. That one seems like a sure bet against Bant Megamorph, but what else can he go to?
Well, he's got 1 copy of Sorin, an additional copy of Wingmate Rock, a Silk Wrap, a Tassiker, an Ultimate Price, a Ruinous Path, all of which seem well set up here. Just more good threats, more good removal spells.
Now these players get ready for game 2. One thing you'd have noticed if you've been checking out spoilers is that Commander, the new Commander set is just around the corner, the Commander 2015, and it is also around the corner at Star City Games. We are now can pre-order the new Magic Commander decks and singles. Get free on-site delivery at Grand Prix Atlanta. A lot of great Commander action going on. That is next weekend. So if you are planning to attend and are a big fan of Commander, you can pick up these new cards by pre-ordering and getting free on-site delivery. Make sure you get in that order by noon Eastern Time tomorrow, and you can pick that one up at Grand Prix Atlanta. Learn about this and more at starcitygames.com/Commander2015.
Keep in mind, that's decks and singles, all available right now for pre-order. Get it in before Monday, noon Eastern, and you can pick it up at Grand Prix Atlanta for free.
Go back to game 2. Tom Ross will be on the play again here. And last time he did have a great start with Gnarlid and Warden of the First Tree, but that Abzan's creatures are a little bigger did seem to carry the day.
And Anafenza was a big deal, being a 4/4. Ross had to lose a threat to be able to raid the Wingmate Rock, and Ross was a threat short of being able to win the game. So right there, just the raw numbers on Anafenza were critical.
Yeah, if you do look back there was a turn where Ross just had to give away a creature in order to get the raid trigger. So when you're doing that, Wingmate Rock is no longer card advantage. It gives you evasion, which seems good. But if you're paying a creature for that token, it's not the raw power you'd expect.
And Ross almost finished off the game there. Wojcak needed to be able to remove 2, 3, 4 flyers with only 5 mana. No guarantee that he can do that, but the mixture of Abzan, Charm, and Dramoka's Command allowed him to do that. he got to untap and swing for a huge amount of damage, and that swing really allowed Wojcak to carry the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard on removal. You look at the removal suite in Wojcak's deck, 3 Dromoka's commands, 2 Silk Wraps, 1 Murderous Cut, 1 Ultimate Price, and 3 Obzon Charms. So he's got a good variety, but at the end of the day, it's only 9 kill spells, and one of them requires him to have a pretty big Preacher in play.
Yep, and that, again, had to do with Anafenza. So Anafenza was really the critical card for Wojcak in that game.
Players getting ready for the second game. Looks like we have 7 cards on both sides. As Tom Ross, for the second game in a row, will start on Warden of the First Tree. And this card, the Warden, does seem pretty relevant to this matchup. Tom was able to get into a 3-3 early on and attack with it a fair number of times last game. And while getting a lot of damage, because it still was outclassed later on.
It's very important to have this card on the first turn of the game. It's very unlikely to just determine the game on its own, but when the matchup is a lot about fighting over planeswalkers and raiding Waymate Rock and being the one on the aggressive side, it's important to have, even though it can get invalidated as the game proceeds.
Just a land from Wade. Looking at Tom's hand, he seems long on Den Protectors here. Those and lands. He'll attack with Warden, play a tap land, and pass. We'll see what creatures can present from the Obzon aggro deck. Obzon aggro, the most popular deck to make day 2 this weekend. No surprise, the deck's very good. We'll check out the entire metagame breakdown after the round. But not surprised to see a Siege Rhino be at the top tables yet again.
Yep. I mean, it was actually the most popular deck, surprisingly enough. The camera told a different story yesterday. We saw a lot of Esper tokens, a lot of Jeskai Black, but when it's all said and done, Obzon aggro the most popular deck.
Some mana mastery here from Wojcak. Has fetched on the first 2 turns to get just basic plains and a basic forest. That will set up his battle lands for the rest of the game.
Although the sequencing last turn from Ross was a little bit odd, he did have the opportunity to simply fetch a forest with the Wooded Foothills and pump the Warden, and then this turn could have played the Canopy Vista untapped and morphed the same way. Excuse me. Needs the white mana to pump the Warden there, so he can't go forest there. So the sequencing is roughly the same thing.
Does get to play his first copy of Den Protector, though, so as he hits in for 1 again. We know he has multiples of it. The chaining of Den Protectors has been a real great late game for Megamorph. Obviously prefers to do it with a Deathmist Raptor in play, or in the yard, either way, really. But it's been one of the hallmarks for the deck. In this matchup, I feel like that may not be as powerful just because no matter how many 3/2s you have, they don't fight a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, Wojak's way of mitigating Den Protector, there's 2. You can get Anafenza into play, and then creatures start getting exiled, and that's very helpful for breaking up the loop and shutting down some of the options for Den Protector to recur. The other path is just overpower Den Protector, just have larger stuff in play, and with Siege Rhino and Anafenza, Wojak can mitigate it. Den Protector is still going to be good for Ross in most of the games, but the size of the creatures are not that big of a concern for Wojak.
Yeah, Siege Rhino is just this excellent blocker. I mean, you almost don't even need kill spells when you have something that large. But he'll take them anyway. Here's a flip up from Den Protector. He'll get back a fetch land, which Tom will crack again. Continuing to set up his mana. We'll see if he gets the blue or just goes for another Canopy Vista. It'll be a second Vista now with double white, quad green in play. If he wants to get that Warden to level 2 or 3, he'll need extra white mana. Swing and pump for Warden. And now we finally see some action from Wade. That's going to be Murderous Cut. It will take down the Warden of the First Tree. And I like the patience from Wade on using that removal spell, forcing Tom to get back a fetch land with the Den Protector, as opposed to the Warden. And here is Siege Rhino now from Wade Wojak, kind of what you expect on turn 4 from those Obzon decks. It'll undo the damage that Tom has dealt, it'll provide a blocker, and now we're back to Tom Ross.
And Wojak flipped the decision on what he decided to kill from the first game, and that has to do with Siege Rhino. He's less concerned with Den Protector this game because he just has awesome blockers. The previous game, he was on removal spells, and Warden, therefore, or Den Protector, rather, was the bigger concern.
Yeah, and it seems like Wojak's on much more of a control plan this game. You look at his hand, he's got Dromoka's Command and a Den Protector. He can recur a lot of these kill spells. But that'll be hard against this Deathmist Raptor now that Tom's put into play. If Tom has another Den Protector to go with this, these creatures will just continue to loop with each other unless Wade can exile Death Mist.
Yeah, and remember, Wojcak has several ways of being able to exile Death Mist Raptor. He has Obzon Charm, which is a clean answer, and Anafenza, which you can pair with a removal spell to exile it.
We'll see if he has any of those here. We go back to Wojcak. Pair of Dromoka's commands in his hand, along with another Murderous Cut. A great amount of removal, but none of it exiles at the moment.
Yep, this is a hand that's not that great against Death Mist Raptor right now. Doesn't want to be using kill spells on it. Doesn't really want to be using kill spells on Den Protector either.
But he may not feel like he has a choice. Here comes Siege Rhino. It'll attack in. If Tom has another Den Protector, this is a pretty reasonable spot for him, I would think. Can trade it with the Death Mist. Maybe he loses his Den Protector, maybe not. He gets it all back at the end of the day.
Usually what this attack signals is that Wojcak has a removal spell, is willing to allow Ross to block with the Death Mist Raptor, will use a removal spell before damage, and still be able to assign all the trample damage.
Yeah, because Rhino has trample. If we remove the blocker, all 4 of it will come across at Tom.
This is a low-cost block. Ross knows this probably means that Wojak's just using a removal spell, and Ross is likely fine with this trade.
Yeah. Ross agrees to these terms of engagement. This will force the hand on Wojak to play a kill spell. He's going to use Dromoka's command. Siege Rhino will fight Den Protector, counter on Siege Rhino. So Rhino will still trade with Death Mist Raptor. 2 damage tramples over. Tom at 13. The whole board is traded. This is a 2 for 2. Unless Tom has a Den Protector, in which case this is great news for Tom Ross.
And this rationalizes everything here as you see this post-combat Tasigur from Wojak. He was willing to trade off all these resources in a way that doesn't look great on the surface because he traded with a Den Protector and Death Mist Raptor's now in the graveyard, but he was just willing to fill up his own graveyard to be able to play Tasigur on the cheap.
So Tasigur is the late game engine for Wojak. He'll get that one going. For Tom, he takes his turn and plays a face down morph. If that's Den Protector, he's got a late game engine of his own, and it's a good one.
But with nothing really happening and both life totals fairly high, Wojak can just hang back and use Tasigur a little bit.
Yeah, we may see him do just that. So we look at Wojak's turn. He has a Dromoka's command. Tasigur will fight the morph. And there's a great, I like the confidence here. Wade playing, he just knows this to be a Den Protector. There's very little chance it's another Death Mist.
Yep.
And that's what happens. So Tom will flip Den Protector, getting back Den Protector. Death Mist comes back into play. Tasigur fights down the 3-2. And now we see what it was all about. Self-inflicted wound is the play after the Dromoka's command. Tom has to sack the Death Mist Raptor. He goes to 11 off the self-inflicted wound. Here comes a swing of 5 from Tasigur. And Tom may have a lot of creatures in play, but he only now has 6 life points to work with as Wade is hitting hard.
It's a little, I mean, this play is very aggressive from Wojak. The problem here is that Ross puts him back in the same spot next turn by playing Den Protector, passing, and having the ability to get Death Mist Raptor back.
That's what Tom will do. He'll play that Den Protector that he got back last turn. He has picked up extra cards in the meantime. 4 cards in hand. He has 2 Silk Wraps, a Dromoka's Command, and a Gideon Ally of Zendikar. Great cards, but I'm still not certain any of them are better than just continuing to use these Den Protectors.
No. You know, he just wants to get the board gummed up a little bit at 6 life. He's got plenty of things to do in his hand. It's just his short-term life total is a concern here, and especially with Wojak having Siege Rhinos in the deck, he has to play a little bit of defense.
Wojak's remaining hand, land number 7 and Den Protector. Trying to figure out if he can get past these creatures for just 6 more damage. He does have a self-inflicted wound on Dromoka's command in the yard. Could buy back either.
Wojak's got a couple good routes this turn. I don't think he can attack because the Death Mist Raptor's coming back and he doesn't have enough removal to work around everything. He can play land number 7, play the Den Protector face down, and have the mana left over to use Tasigur, and then can untap with a lot of mana in play, Den Protector, some good options in the graveyard, and see if he can punch through the last couple points.
Yeah, he does have a lot of card advantage going. Looks like he's going to have to fall back on Tasigur, as you mentioned, to get some extra resources.
Which is why I would have probably played last turn a little bit more defensively, because it was just likely Wojak would land in the same spot this turn, and yes, he got in a lot of damage, but Ross is still at 6. He's out of range of cards like Self-Inflicted Wound and Siege Rhino for the time being. So I would have probably preferred just to sit back on Tasigur for a turn.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that Tom could run this play back again. It was all on the board.
He did get in a big hit. I mean, being able to cast a Self-Inflicted Wound, he hit for 5 with Tasigur. It's a lot of damage.
All right, so it looks like he will go for the Tasigur play. He's going to play that one to start. Mills a Plains and a Snapping Gnarlid. So Tom can give, I was going to say, yeah, he's going to get the Snapping Gnarlid back.
Yeah, you can see the look on Wade's face there. I'm getting a Snapping Gnarlid, not one of these awesome removal spells.
Yeah, the Plains was great news. He was probably hoping for another lander kill spell as the second card. Though when Tom's a 6, almost any creature can... The creatures all have value, even when they're Snapping Gnarlids.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, but the problem is, for the purposes of mana efficiency, you'd rather tap out this turn and play the Den Protector, but the Snapping Gnarlid gets worse and worse as the game progresses, so you kind of want to play it right now. If Wade is playing a Wooded Foothills and sacrificing it, I assume it's because he's planning on casting a Morph this turn.
Yeah, the face-down Den Protector does seem likely. And Wade also has to watch out. If he's going to keep going for Tasigur, if he plays a Snapping Gnarlid and starts trading it, then he runs the risk that Tom just keeps giving him that Snapping Gnarlid.
Yeah, the thing is, Wade can kind of just hang back. Again, Ross is not doing a whole lot here. He can play his Den Protector face down. He can hang back and just generate card advantage with Tasigur and Den Protector. He'll have an opportunity to, as you see here, Wojcak made this attack. He'll have an opportunity to cast the Gnarlid and make an Alpha Strike at some point, but he doesn't want to trade it off.
Well, here comes the attack. From Tasigur, Tom has to block, but that one's easy. Den Protector gets back Den Protector, Death Mist into play. Death Mist trades with Tasigur in a pass. Now, I was surprised to see Wade willing to make that Tasigur for Death Mist trade.
Yeah, the last 2 turns have been some kind of incongruous play here from Wojcak. My preference, like I said, would have just been to hang back with Tasigur, draw some cards, and respond to Ross's board as it appears. You can't really try to grind him out of this game answering his board turn after turn because of the Death Mist Raptor and the Den Protector loop. You kind of have to do everything in one shot. And by splitting it up over the course of turns and trading a bunch, Ross is getting a lot of mileage out of his Den Protectors and Death Mist Raptors.
Yeah, and on top of that, Wade does have the Den Protector, but he has no mana to flip it up yet. He may get his Den Protector Silk Wrapped with one of these removal spells out of Tom's hand.
Dromoka's Command is a possibility. There's a lot of things that kill it.
It's going to be Silk Wrap, and Den Protector was taken without a chance to unmorph it, and that's a huge win for Tom Ross.
And now Wojcak's hand is just a Snapping Gnarlid.
Yeah, so Gideon is the follow-up for Tom. It's going to make an ally. Den Protector will swing, and the tables have turned on Wojcak. The Den Protector loops with a Death Mist that was able to grind Wade out of cards, and yeah, this board looks so difficult for him.
Well, Ross is at 5. Wojcak's got Siege Rhino and Self-Inflicted Wound in his deck. So there's a path here. He's drawn an Abzan Charm. I think the ship has sailed on trying to manage the board at all. Ross has just too many cards in his hand at this point, and Wojcak's leftovers, just a Snapping Gnarlid, not good enough to compete. If I'm in Wojcak's spot here, I'm just drawing cards and hoping to burn Ross out with Siege Rhinos and Self-Inflicted Wounds.
So in Wojcak's spot, you'd assume you're dead in 2 turns from Tom?
Yes, and I also am assuming that just using a removal spell on the Den Protector does not get me very far.
Wojcak agrees. It looks like Abzan Charm will draw 2. He goes to 10, draws 2 cards. Can he get a Rhino? Can he get a Self-Inflicted Wound? Looks like it was Land and Dromoka's Command. Great cards, but not what he's looking for at the moment. And now he has Land, Gnarlid, and Dromoka's Command. He can get his Den Protector back, but it would be face up. That's not going to be any help. And here, going for the plays, he has Snapping Gnarlid. Does have a fetch land in hand, so he has options actually with Snapping Gnarlid. He can make it a 3/3 to block.
You can make it 3/3 to block, and with Dromoka's Command, it's a 4/4. That allows it to answer both the Den Protector and the token that's in play. So that's some breathing space, but again, not a long-term solution.
And the Gnarlid, he will put a counter on Gnarlid and have it fight Den Protector. Makes it into a 4/4 until end of turn. Now he'll pass. It was interesting options with the command. He could have also made Tom sacrifice the Silk Wrap there.
Yep.
Tom's hand, though. Remember, Tom's been playing these morphs each turn. He's playing the Den Protector, getting back Den Protector. That means that once he gets off the Den Protector loop, he has a lot of cards to work with.
And I think that I would have preferred for Wojcak to make Ross sacrifice the Silk Wrap. Now looking at it, it is possible Ross has no way to block a Den Protector in his hand if he's just all on 2/2s. And then a Siege Rhino off the top can get you the game. I think it increases the odds that Wojak's able to punk him out.
Tom's play pretty strong here. Silk Wrap on Snapping Gnarl. It pluses Gideon, swings for 7, puts Wojak down to 2, plays Warden, and that is enough. We are on to game 3. Tom Ross takes that one thanks to some Den Protectors to buy him time into the late game.
And that's a pretty simple looking play, but it's also an important one there from Ross. To understand important thresholds for your opponent's life total, getting Wojak down to 2, using a removal spell very aggressively and getting Wojak down to 2 suddenly means that cards like Abzan Charm, Read the Bones, Painful Truth are all off the table. Ross knows he's at risk of getting burned out by some weird mixture of cards. So getting Wojak low enough that the card drawers are off the table reduces some of the outs.
Yeah, and that game just really shows off the power of Death Mist Raptor Den Protector in this matchup. When you have 2 Den Protectors and a Death Mist, it's a lot of resources for Abzan to work through.
And it's why it's so important. Wojak has basically 2 ways to mitigate that. One is just exile them, which he can do with Anafenza or Abzan Charm. And if he can't do that, he's got to figure out some way to blunt the card advantage and generate card advantage of his own. He kind of was in the middle of those 2 things, and it didn't work out for him, where he was trying to punch through Den Protector, Death Mist Raptor turn after turn. And that's just not a winning fight for Abzan aggro. Ross generates so much card advantage for so little mana. And I think Wojak needed to dedicate more resources to using Tassiker and wait for a shot to overwhelm Ross in one turn rather than trying to punch through his defenses over and over again.
So in that situation, when you're facing down these Death Mists, and maybe you don't have an Abzan Charm, what's he looking for off the Tassiker then? What helps him?
Anafenza, Abzan Charm, or just a variety of threats. Even if you just start putting Siege Rhinos into play, or you just build up a hand with enough removal spells, even if they don't exile, you do get into a position where you can Alpha Strike.
We'll see if he can get down to that one. These players are going to go ahead and go to game 3. You see they are looking at their sideboard again here. I was pretty impressed with that game from Tom. Didn't see a lot of sideboard action from him, but just the main deck plan seemed very effective.
I think that he was a little bit sharper than Wojak in that game in managing his resources. They both had a lot of card advantage, a lot of mana to work with, a lot of options, and Wojak was running his head into the wall of Death Mist Raptor Den Protector over and over again. And Ross just allowed Wojak to play into him that way and then overwhelmed Wojak on the way back with the leftovers in his hand, like Gideon.
Players getting ready for game 3. We are in season 4 right now. If you guys have been watching us all year, we are building toward the Players' Championship at the end of the year. So what season 4 means is each season we have a different playmat that you get from showing up for each of these events. For this season, it's the Hoppin' Rabbit Master playmat. That's the parody series. For Goblin Rabbit Master, you see this horde of bunnies coming at you with carrots. It's great artwork here, and if you want your chance to get it, those events are running out. We have 3 more opens. This is a free limited edition playmat. Then all you have to do to get it is to sign up at any one of our open series from now until December 5th. So make sure to make it out to one of our remaining events, whether it's Kansas City or Denver. Coming up, we will be giving those at each of those events.
New Jersey, also at the end of the month, the Legacy Open. And remember, it is free when you sign up for any of our 2-day $20,000 Open Series events. It comes when you sign up. We don't mail it to you after the fact. It's not limited to the first X people who register. It is free. It is unlimited all the way to the Open December 5th in Denver. So if you want to get your hands on this playmat, you are running out of time. 3 Open Series events remaining to get the Hoppin' Rabbit Master mat. It's the Hoppin' Rabbit Master mat.
Hoppin' Rabbit Master. Hoppin' Rabbit Master.
Hoppin' Rabbit Master mat. Credit to Michael Majors. I ran into him in between rounds, and somehow the playmat came up in conversation, and he goes, "Oh, you mean the Hoppin' Rabbit Master mat?"
Like, yeah,
except he was able to say it without stumbling over his words.
Tom Ross 2-0 on the day so far with Bant Megamorph. This is a deck both he and Brad Nelson are bringing to the tournament today. Both still, Tom Ross 9-2, Brad X-3. The 2 of them met yesterday. Tom Ross was victorious in the match.
Former runner-up for Rookie of the Year, 2004, I believe, Craig Krempels in the back. over Wade Wojak's shoulder. Former Legacy Open champion in New Jersey. Competing in the second day, not doing particularly well, playing out the stretch.
You always get that, especially in the Philly, New England area, a lot of these longtime veteran players coming out for the events.
Yep. Craig with a Pro Tour 9th place finish in Yokohama back in the day. Won U.S. Nationals back when that was a tournament. And now just sort of anonymously shuffling through day 2 of the SCG Open, I'm guessing in the X4 bracket. When you come out to the Mid-Atlantic, you come out to New England, there was a spot a couple of years ago where that was kind of Mike Sigrist. Back when he was sort of getting back onto the grind a little bit, coming out to the SCGs and playing in some tournaments. And
Yeah, Mike Sigrist actually one of the, a veteran of the scene for those of,
the neutral ground, your move game sort of rivalry. There's a lot of players when you come out to these events that if you've been around the game for a long time, you know them. But if you're a little bit newer, you might not know these names. But a lot of finishes in the room. For Craig, unfortunately, one of those finishes will not be this particular weekend.
We have game 3 here. Wade Wojcak and Tom Ross. We saw Wade take down game 1 based off an excess of removal. Was able to beat Tom's late game when Tom was going for Wingmate Rock. Had much more trouble dealing with a Graveyard Engine, though. Tom was able to take game 2 off it as we start our 3rd game. No Warden of the First Trees this time around.
Wojcak with Anafenza in hand, so we'll see if that provides some help in cutting off Ross's graveyard this game.
Looks like Ross has gone toward some of those disdainful strokes that you were talking about here, one of them in his hand. As both players just trading lands for the first 2 turns.
It's an odd card because in some respects it's better when you're on the draw. Cards that allow you to break serve, break tempo, they're more valuable. But also Ross's deck is a lot of creatures, and so he has to tap out on his own turn to get something going, and that might make it a little bit more awkward for him to leave up disdainful strokes. See how it plays out.
Yeah, you're right. With Sorcery Speed, it's not free to leave that up. Looks like the first play of the game is going to be Wojcak. That's a turn 3 Anafenza. You mentioned that shuts down Tom Ross's graveyard strategy.
And this is the bind now with Disdainful Stroke, is Wojcak is threatening a variety of 4-mana plays next turn. Could be Gideon, could be Siege Rhino, but there's also a problem on the board. And so does Ross tap out this turn to Silk Wrap it and expose himself to a powerful 4-mana play from Wojcak? Or does he start taking 4 a turn? He probably has to answer, but that could mean the Disdainful Stroke will struggle to be cast this game.
And that's why having a 4/4 over 3 is just so powerful. Ideally, right, if you're Tom, you could still wait till turn 4, Silk Wrap it, and leave up Disdainful Stroke. But there's danger in that. I mean, you take 4, perhaps Wade just plays another 3-drop, and then Tom would be very far behind.
Exactly. If Wojcak is sharp about it and sees Ross passing with 3 mana up, Ross kept his opening hand. There's no way he kept nothing. He may just play under it and jam the Disdainful Stroke in Ross's hand.
There's the Silk Wrap you talked about. Tom playing Silk Wrap and a tap land passes the turn back to Wade Wojcak. Wade, some late game cards here. Tasigur in hand. Alongside of Dramoka's Command, he can get his Anafenza back if it comes to that.
A lot of good arguments here for Tasigur this turn. It's an opportunity where Ross's shields are down, so you don't have to worry about Disdainful Stroke. It's outside the range of Silk Wrap. And now Dramoka's Command can be very explosive, tagging Ross's creature, and as you mentioned, unlocking the Anafenza that's under the Silk Wrap.
That was the bind you talked about. Tom tapped out on turn 3 for the Silk Wrap. It took down Disdainful Stroke, and Wojcak made the most of it. Tasigur the Golden Fang now in play. As we go back to Tom, he's going to have to counter with his own 4-mana play. Does have options, though. 2 Den Protectors, Gideon, both in hand. Looks like he also has a Silk Wrap, Disdainful Stroke.
Gideon is a huge risk. If he taps out for Gideon, he's not quite conceding the game to Dramoka's Command, rather, but it's pretty close. Tasigur fights the token. Tom sacrifices the Silk Wrap. Tasigur attacks Gideon.
It's all sorts of problems for Tom
It's really
Ross.
rough. It's a huge risk. I don't know if he's got better alternatives, though. I mean, playing Den Protector and saying go is also really bad against Dramoka's Command.
Well, he's going to go with Gideon plus the Gideon here.
Although that doesn't get him very far against Dramoka's Command because Wojcak
Same problem, right?
Yes, Wojcak can put a counter on the Tasigur and unlock the Silk Wrap.
This plays even weaker to Dramoka's Command because now Wojcak gets a counter on the Tasigur.
Yep.
and that's what'll happen. Counter on Tasigur. Tom Ross sacrifices an enchantment, so Anafenza comes back into play. The Tasigur gets a 5th point of power. Tasigur attacks down Gideon, and what a great board for Wojcak now. He has 9 power and 2 creatures to Tom's empty board.
So the reason that Ross pluses that turn is because he can't beat Dromoka's command in the spot regardless. So take that off the table. If Wojcak just has a random removal spell that is not Dromoka's command, he is better served having Gideon at 5 because then Tasigur can't finish it off.
Yeah, something like
Ultimate price or murderous cut.
cut.
Yeah, he's better served with the Gideon at 5 loyalty. So
yeah.
Tom, no matter what Tom's play was that turn, if he plays Den Protector face down, if he plays Gideon, Dromoka's command is going to be a huge problem. There's nothing he can do about it, but he was trying to mitigate some of the secondary cards by the way that he played it.
So now we get into the rebuilding. Tom's going to go ahead and Silk Wrap the Anafenza for a second time, then play a Den Protector past the turn. He's going to take some hits, but he has a lot of life points to work with. He's at 18. We pass back to Wojcak. And Wojcak, no sign of letting up, has another Dromoka's command. He can just do a 2-for-1 again.
Yeah, he gets to run back the same play.
Tasigur fights down the Morph. Silk Wrap is sacrificed again. Here's Anafenza. And just these back-breaking plays from Wojcak. Dromoka's command doing so much work. Making sure Den Protector gets exiled here.
Yeah, it depends on the order in which these things happen. Does the fight happen first or does the sacrifice happen first?
Exactly.
Just keeping the board state clean.
I think players right now are just figuring that one out. But regardless, Wojcak's, this time, he's going to get an attack in on Tom. So it's not just a 2-for-1, it's going to come with 5 damage.
A critique that I have of the Bat Megamorph deck, and I don't know if there's a way to fix it, is in games against other creature removal decks, it doesn't have ways to break serve as easily as the black decks do. You can feel the absence of Murderous Cut in this deck in a big way. Ross really has to get to Dromoka's command to be able to set up his big turns. Those are very vulnerable to removal spells. It's also vulnerable to just being too slow. And Wojcak with black removal spells is just having a much easier time of getting out in front, casting 2 spells in 1 turn.
Well, that's one of the advantages to having kill spells is it lets you get behind. It lets you recover on them when you're behind on the board. And Wade, as you've seen with these Dromoka's commands and now other kill spells in his hand, is just much better at doing that.
Even something as innocuous as Ultimate Price allows Wojcak to, when he's on the draw, kill a play some percentage of the time, or when he's on the play, get to spots where he's casting 2 spells in 1 turn. Ross doesn't have any analog to that in his deck. It's Silk Wrap, which he needs mana on his own turn. It's Dromoka's command that's predicated on having a creature.
Here's another Den Protector for Tom Ross. It's going to be face down. He went to 13 last turn off a hit from Tasigur. We'll see if Wade wants to pull a trigger on the end step. He has a lot of great cards in hand. It looks like Abzan Charm and Murderous Cut. Plenty of great ways for Wade to play this. And looks like the end step play will be Murderous Cut on the Morph. Tom will get to get something back, but that would cost him all his mana, and he is running out of life points. He's at 13, but the hits are coming in hard. It's at least 10 next turn. So Tom's going to protect the blocker. He Disdainful Strokes the Murderous Cut. But now he no longer has mana to activate Den Protector.
And again, this is a hit for 10. A hit for 10 puts Tom in a Siege Rhino range.
Yeah, and that's even without talking about the board.
And Wojcak's leftovers, Abzan Charm, Self-Inflicted Wound, Tasigur in play, plenty of mana to activate it. I don't see Tom being able to hold on to this game much longer.
So here's the swing. A counter on Tasigur turns it into a 6-7. Will Tom chump or go to 3? Those are his options. Den Protector probably too valuable to chump block, though, and that's going to be the play. So Tom Ross down to 3. Wade makes a 6th land and just passes the turn. He has Tasigur up. He has a kill spell up. Tom on his last legs here. Needs to prevent the damage from both attackers. He's going to start then by unmorphing Den Protector. It's going to get back Silk Wrap yet again. The first 2 Silk Wraps were hit by Dromoka's command. For the 3rd time this game, he'll attempt to wrap up the Anafenza.
And you can see Wojcak's, he's Debating about some spells in his hand here. I think he's best served just letting this go, activating Tasigur, and taking it from there.
He'll start by letting the Anafenza off the board.
Wojcak does not have to worry about Dromoka's command. The Den Protector is too small relative to the Tasigur for that to be a concern. And Wojcak, in the worst case scenario, can untap and cast Self-Inflicted Wounds. So I think you can spin the Tasigur right now. It's possible Murderous Cut or Dromoka's command, you get back, works its way into the equation right now.
Yep. Here's the activation. The 2 cards in graveyard are Cut and Dromoka's command, and both of the mills are lands. Tom has to give way to Kill Spell, and that Kill Spell should be good enough to take care of the Den Protector. Certainly he can't give him Dromoka's command. We've seen the Dromoka's command against Silkrap. It's just been backbreaking each time. It looks like Tom is going to give him Dromoka's command.
Yeah, there's no way at this way for Ross to hold on. Wojak's got 2 spells that are essentially lethal here in Self-Inflicted Wound and Dromoka's command.
Yeah, well, it's not Self-Inflicted Wound, but it's Ultimate Price.
Oh,
That's good enough anyway, though. Tom Ross extends the hand. So 2 games to 1. It is Wade Wojak who moves on here. Tom picks up a 3rd loss. That's going to put him on the edge of missing top 8. He'll need 3 more wins if he wants to get